Title of the first section today is Review Long Division. In this section we'll review how to use long division for polynomials. First question, 3c to the fifth plus 5c to the fourth plus c plus 5 all over c plus 2. Again, we can use long division to divide polynomials to solve the question. First part, we can draw the long division symbol. The numerator, or top polynomial, would go inside the division symbol. 3c to the fifth plus 5c to the fourth. After c to the fourth, though, instead of plus c, we'll need c to the third. Since there's no c to the third, we can put plus 0.3 cubed. After c cubed, there's no c squared. And after c squared, we can put plus c from the problem, and also plus 5. Outside the division symbol, we're dividing by c plus 2. Dividing from here, c into 3c to the fifth, or what term times c is 3c to the fifth? That would be 3c to the fourth. Multiplying 3c to the fourth times c, that would be 3c to the fifth, and 3c to the fourth times 2 would be a positive 6c to the fourth. Putting the new expression in parentheses and subtracting, the first terms again should always match up. If they don't, you have to go back and double check your multiplication and your terms. The second terms we can subtract. 5c to the fourth minus 6c to the fourth would be negative 1c to the fourth. Dropping down the next term, which would be 0c cubed. C into negative 1c to the fourth would be negative c to the third. Negative c to the third times c would be negative c to the fourth. And negative c cubed times 2 would be negative 2c cubed. Negative 1c to the fourth minus a negative c to the fourth. Minus a negative will actually be adding, so the first terms will cancel. And 0c cubed minus a negative 2c cubed minus a negative will actually be adding, so we'll have 2c cubed. Bringing down the next term, 0c squared. C dividing into 2c cubed would be 2c squared. Multiplying 2c squared times c, that'll match up with 2c cubed. And 2c squared times 2 would be plus 4c squared. Subtracting, the first terms will cancel, and 0c squared minus 4c squared would be a negative 4c squared. I'll write the negative 4c squared up top, and we'll bring down the next term plus c. Dividing c into negative 4c squared, that would be negative 4c. Negative 4c times c will be negative 4c squared. And again, the first terms always have to match up. And negative 4c times 2 would be negative 8c. Negative 4 minus a negative 4, or adding 4, would cancel. And 1c minus a negative 8c, minus a negative will be adding 8. So 1c plus 8c would be 9c. Bringing down the last number, which would be a positive 5. Now we have c divided into 9c, which would be plus 9. 9 times c will be 9c, and 9 times 2 will be 18. This time the last term doesn't cancel, so we'll have a remainder. 9 c's will cancel, but 5 minus 18 would be a negative 13. The remainder, negative 13. What we can do is write our final answer using a fraction. The minus 13 will be the numerator, and the denominator, if you remember for fractions, for long division, whatever we're dividing by, c plus 2, will be the denominator of our remainder fraction. So our final answer is everything on top of the division symbol. 3c to the fourth minus c cubed plus 2c squared minus 4c plus 9 minus the fraction 13 over c plus 2. Title of the last section today is Synthetic Division. In this section we'll divide polynomials with variables, but instead of long division we'll use synthetic division. One definition or rule for synthetic division is divisor must be in parentheses x minus r. What this means is for synthetic division, the divisor or polynomial or binomial that we're dividing by must be of the form x minus r. X cannot have a coefficient or can only have a coefficient of 1, and also x cannot have an exponent or it only has to have an exponent of 1. Minus r means it could be minus any number. It could also be minus a negative number, which would be plus r. But it has to be x and then a single number after x. Taking a look at the first question. In parentheses, 5x cubed minus 13x squared plus 10x minus 8. And a division symbol dividing by, in parentheses, x minus 2. Looking at this problem, the divisor, or phrase that we're dividing by, is of the form x minus r, or we have x and then a single number after that, which means we can use synthetic division. To start synthetic division, we'll draw a spot, kind of like a box in the top left-hand corner. Inside this box, we'll put a single number. This number, looking back at the divisor, x minus 2, we'll take the opposite of negative 2, which will be positive 2 or just 2, and we'll put that number inside the box in the top left. Next to the box, along the top, we'll write the coefficients of the original term that we're dividing. We'll take off all the variables and just use the coefficients. So the first coefficient would be 5, the second coefficient, negative 13, the next coefficient, 10, and the last coefficient, negative 8. From here, we'll skip a spot to fill in some numbers in a little bit, but we'll draw a line underneath that. To use synthetic division, we'll take the first coefficient, 5, and we'll drop that straight down underneath the line that we drew. The second step, we'll take the number inside the box, which is 2, and we'll multiply by the number that we have on the bottom. So in this case, 2 times 5 would be 10, and we'll take this 10 and write it underneath the next coefficient. So again, we'll drop the first number down without changing it, and then we'll multiply, put the product underneath the next coefficient. The rest of the problem will continue the same, but with these two coefficients, we'll end up adding these two coefficients together. Negative 13 plus 10 would be negative 3. After we add the two numbers together, Again, we'll multiply this number times 2, and the product we'll put underneath the next coefficient. Each time we have two numbers, we'll add those two numbers together. 10 plus a negative 6 would be 4. Multiplying again, 4 times 2 would be 8. And negative 8 plus 8 would be 0. The 0 at the end represents that there's no remainder for this question. Our final answer, these are the coefficients, 5, negative 3, and 4. To put the variables back in, looking back at the original question, we had x cubed. But since we're dividing by x, we're going to reduce the exponent by 1. So instead of x cubed, the 5 will become 5x squared. And likewise, the minus 3 or negative 3 will decrease the exponent by 1. So we'll have 5x squared minus 3x. And after the x, we'll have just the single number, which would be plus 4. So our final answer to the division question would be 5x squared minus 3x plus 4. Second question, and last question for the section. In parentheses, y to the 5th plus 32 times a second parentheses, y plus 2 to the negative first power. Again, it looks like a multiplication question, but the negative exponent again, we can rewrite in the denominator as a positive exponent, positive 1, or we can leave it off to have it dividing by y plus 2. Looking at this question, the divisor is in the form x minus r. Instead of x, you can have a different variable. And again, instead of subtracting the number, it's okay to add a number. But if there's ever a coefficient in front of the variable, if you ever have an exponent, then we cannot use synthetic division. To set the question up again, we can first draw a box in the top left-hand corner. If we have y plus 2, we'll do the opposite of plus 2. So we'll have negative 2. And then the coefficients for the original polynomial we're dividing will go across the top. Y to the 5th has a coefficient of 1. Keep in mind, just like long division, we need placeholders for exponents that we're missing. There is no y to the 4th, so we can put a 0 for y to the 4th. We can also put 0 for y cubed, 0 for y squared, 0 for y, and plus 32 at the end. So we'll have y to the 5th, y to the 4th, y cubed, y squared, y, and the constant coefficient. From here we can draw the line on the bottom. And if you want to, you can add a plus sign, so you remember to add the numbers as the problem continues. The first number always comes straight down, and we'll always multiply by negative 2 for this question. Negative 2 times 1 would be negative 2. Adding 0 plus a negative 2 would be negative 2. Multiplying negative 2 times negative 2 would be positive 4. 0 plus 4 would be 4. Negative 2 times 4 would be negative 8. 0 plus a negative 8 is negative 8. Negative 2 times negative 8, 16. 0 plus 16 would be 16. And negative 2 times 16 would be negative 32. Adding 32 plus a negative 32 would be 0. And again, a 0 for the last number represents no remainder. If you did have a remainder, you can make a fraction for your final answer. These again are the coefficients. Put in the variables back in. We started with y to the 5th. Since we're dividing by y, we'll take off one exponent. So the 1 would be 1y to the 4th, or just y to the 4th, minus 2, y cubed. Each time will decrease by 1 for the exponent, plus 4y squared, minus 8y, and plus 16. So our final answer, y to the 4th minus 2y cubed plus 4y squared minus 8y plus 16 with no remainder. If we did have a remainder, we could have a fraction on the end.